This is Paul Schmid. Welcome to the Pursuit Zone. Ryan Wichelns and Gabe Messercola have spent the last half-decade in the Adirondacks. They have been fortunate to have this park in their backyard and have gained an appreciation for the wilderness through backpacking and climbing. To raise awareness and support for Big City Mountaineers, an urban youth outdoor mentoring organization, Ryan and Gabe spent 20 days this summer traversing the Adirondack Park from south to north, blue line to blue line, a 205-mile adventure of cycling, canoeing, and hiking. You can check out their adventure at adirondacktraverse.org. Ryan Wichelns and Gabe Messercola, welcome to the Pursuit Zone.
Thank you very much.
Good to be here.
What is the Adirondack Traverse?
The Adirondack Traverse is our own route that we put together. It ended up being about 217 miles, completely bisecting the Adirondack Park in upstate New York from its southern boundary to its northern boundary. And we did it completely under our own power, hiking, biking, and canoeing.
What's blue line to blue line mean?
Blue line to blue line is sort of a slogan we picked up as kind of a motto for the trip. It's the boundaries of the park are called the blue lines, the actual map boundaries. So we wanted a motto to represent the fact that we were cutting completely through the park. So we like to say blue line to blue line, just meaning boundary to boundary, the north boundary of the park and the south boundary of the park.
How much preparation and planning went into trying to figure out this route?
We came up with the idea, we're not really even sure how, but we came up with the idea to do the route, and we started planning it pretty much immediately, a little more than a year before we started on the actual trip. And it took about a year talking to a lot of different people who have more experience in individual pieces of the route and individual portions of the Adirondacks than we do, just to really confirm it and get it nailed down as much as we could before we kind of stuck ourselves out in the middle of it.
Were there any special permits that were required?
Yeah, we did. We had to reserve. It was actually only one lean-to in the middle of the trip, but we reserved it for 2 nights, I believe, because we had a weather day built in there just in case it was raining, because it was on a canoeing day. So we did have to get it wasn't as much as a permit as a reservation for that lean-to. Besides that, not too much paperwork or anything for lean-to lodging or anything like that.
Yeah, the Adirondacks are really pretty good in that they don't require permits for very much at all of the public land up there. So that was really our the only thing we had to do was reserve that one lean-to site, which was part of a campground.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about the Adirondacks is the fact that there's no hassle. When you want to go camping, you go camping. And whoever's at that lean-to, you meet, and that's kind of how it works. It's free, and I think that's the best way to do it.
How did you guys become interested in the outdoors in the first place?
We both grew up in very outdoors-oriented families, and we've always been really outdoorsy kids. We have been friends since kindergarten and first grade, and we've always been doing things outside when we were little kids. And it's funny how it kind of progressed for us. We originally started doing something called geocaching, which got us finding these geocaches with GPS coordinates originally on top of fire tower mountains. And then we started liking that, and we started climbing mountains just to climb mountains. And then really progressed more and more. That has been our focus more than anything else is climbing the peaks up in the Adirondacks and doing that type of thing. But we spent a lot of our collective lives up in the Adirondacks since we were really little kids.
Yeah, our interest in the outdoors really hand in hand with our friendship.
Are you guys, pardon me if I get this wrong, but do they call it 46ers?
Yep, that's what we call it. That's the term for everyone in New York State or wherever who has climbed the 46 high peaks, which are every mountain in New York over 4,000 feet. And we are on 39, but we're going to be done right after we get back from Mount Rainier.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the trip. Let's talk about the route. If you can kind of take us through it and maybe hit the highlights, some of the most challenging sections, talk about what are the most memorable sections to you.
Our route that we came up with is kind of a collection of a couple smaller, more established routes throughout the Adirondacks. It starts out in large part with the Northville Placid Trail, which is a very well-established long trail from Northville, New York to Lake Placid, New York. We got to Northville beginning that with a short bike ride from the southern boundary of the park. Did the entire Northville Placid Trail in 14 days. And then up towards Lake Placid, we picked up the canoe and paddled the Saranac chain of lakes, and then linked that up with the Seven Carries canoe route, which is an old established canoe route up there. And then after the Seven Carries, we put the canoe into the St. Regis River and paddled that just about all the way to the northern boundary of the park and walked the last 8 or so miles into town and across the line.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the trip was the way that we planned it. We kind of encompassed the Adirondack classics, like the Northville Placid Trail and the Seven Carries canoe route, which are just classic Adirondack. You'll hear lots of people that spend a lot of time up there talking about those routes. And then we combine them with things that are less popular, like the St. Regis River. We probably were one of the few canoes to paddle that river this year, let alone the past 5 years. So it was really cool to do the Adirondack classics and some more obscure stuff and mix it all into one big trip into our own adventure.
Yeah, it was the entire route gives us a really good taste of all the different aspects of the Adirondack Park, from the mountains to the lower, the towns, the swampy lakes and the rivers and all that kind of thing. It gives us a really good taste of the park as a whole and the diversity that it has.
Tell me about your support team that helped you transition between these sections.
So we broke the route up into 17 sections, each of which can be hiked or biked or canoed in a day. And those were our 17 traveling days. And then we broke those 17 sections up further into 6 or 7 larger pieces, which were broken up from each other by either resupply points or locations where we needed to switch from hiking to canoeing, that kind of thing. And at all of those points, we got met by friends and family and parents who were tremendous help in the whole process. And they resupplied us with food and clothing, and also helped out with transferring bikes or canoes and that kind of thing on and off to us as we needed them.
Yeah, the whole support team consisted of my 2 friends, Josh and Liam, Ryan's friend Brian, and then my dad and Ryan's dad, and that was the team. So it was a lot of close friends in our family. Ryan's mom washed all of our disgusting clothes every section, so that was quite a challenge. And they met us, and they always had great food for us because we, eat that dehydrated stuff for 4 or 5 days straight for breakfast, dinner, and lunch, because that was I had got all that food really cheap all at once. So it was nice to get real food when they met us. They did a great job.
We spent a lot of time, too, before this trip, really meticulously choosing who we were going to ask to do this kind of thing, because the stuff that they did was extremely, extremely important to the trip itself and to us. If anything had gone wrong, we really would have been stranded up there without food and without the transportation that we needed to get to the next location. So we took a lot of care in choosing who we ended up having help us. and it was all facilitated by another friend of ours, Rob, who was really a instrumental piece of the entire trip. He was our support team leader, and he was the guy back here that had cell service, who really had the ability to keep in contact with everyone, and he was really our eyes and ears back here, and he did a really good job of coordinating everything.
What was the most challenging section of this adventure for you guys?
The first week, the second half of the first week and beginning of the second week was really the toughest part of the entire trip. We had about a week where it was just nonstop rain. The trails were the worst condition I think either of us have ever seen hiking trails anywhere. It was miserably cold and wet. And it became really, really tough at a couple points in there. We had one day where we had about 17 miles to hike over the course of the day, and it rained nonstop just about the entire day. The trails were brutal. Our boots were soaked within the first couple miles, and we got to the lean-to that night and totally crashed. And the next day we actually had one good day. Turned out to be a perfect day. We didn't go anywhere from the lean-to, stayed right there. We're able to get everything dry and get our solar panel charged and do everything we needed to do. And then the next day we got up and had 12 miles to do and started out fine, and got about halfway through and it started raining again. And I think that was really the low point for me, was getting about halfway through that day and starting to get wet again, and starting to have that wetness and water kind of became a fear for me at that point, because it was just so miserable to cover that kind of mileage when you're as wet as we were. But it worked out pretty well. We cut that day short and spent the night where we were. And the next day it was dry and we were able to get done what we needed to get done. And from then out, the trip, we had reasonably good weather at that point on.
That same exact story with me was one of my most challenging moments on the trip. Because just like Ryan was saying, the wetness became like a theme of the trip, and we were just starting it. And pulling my sleeping bag out that second day it was raining, and getting back into my wet sleeping bag with just a bunch of wet clothes, and it was cold. I mean, it was dropping down to 30s, and nothing we had was dry, and even with our raincoats and pack covers and all of our stuff on, it's hard to keep the water off everything. And it was just pretty miserable, especially the first day that we were hiking that 17 miles. It was like about 6 inches of water rushing, not even stagnant. It was like flowing down the trails. So we were basically hiking, and this was on a meetup day too. So we had fresh packs on. We had 45-pound packs, 48-pound packs on. And we were hiking 17 miles up like streams with 6 inches of water flowing down, and our boots were wet immediately. And it was a tough day. It was. And then we kind of got a glimmer of hope the next day, started to dry stuff off, and the next day it rained after that. So that was tough. But I mean, really after that, we didn't have too much of a problem with rain. It was scattered and it was cloudy, but it was nothing like the beginning. That was one of the struggles right in the beginning there. And then probably the most physically challenging day for me, that was probably the most mentally challenging moment on the trip. I think the most physically challenging moment on the trip was the second to last day. We were paddling on the St. Regis River. We're thinking about the end of the trip. We're getting there. It's been 18 days. And we had about how many portages, Ryan? Like 4? 4 portages on the second to last day. They were all about a half mile to a quarter of a mile long, around that. We got to the first one and we had trouble finding the trail. When we did find it, it was in complete disrepair. The trail was not maintained at all. This portage probably hasn't been used in, like I said, around 5 years or even more. Or if it has, very, very, very sparsely. So the trail was so bad that we had to walk our packs down, dump our packs, go back for the canoe. On the way back to the canoe, we'd have to cut tree branches. We'd have to break logs, move logs, clear up brush, because we literally physically couldn't get the canoe through. So here we are. I lost 13 pounds on the trip, so we're skinny and we're tired, and we're just thinking about the last couple days, and we're trying to get the canoe through, turning out to be 2 miles of portaging on each one, because by the time we were like walking our pack and cleaning the trail and everything, it turned into a couple miles. That was a physically demanding day. We got to the tent site that night and we collapsed, or last night.
What kind of canoe were you using?
My family has an Old Town canoe that we've had since I was a little kid. We use that. A really good canoe. We've been beating the crap out of that canoe for a very long time, and it can take some beatings.
Is that fiberglass?
Yes.
And so you mentioned, was it 48-pound packs that you were both carrying?
We probably started out. On the
meetup days.
The first day. And we were between 45 and 50-pound packs, and that obviously dwindles back as we eat some of our food, and then we get to a resupply day, and it jumps right back up.
Did you guys use tents?
We only had to use tents on the last 2 days. We managed to lean-to hop every night. We went from lean-to to lean-to, because the Adirondacks is just full of lean-tos. So we managed to lean-to hop until the last 2 nights where we had to use tents because we were sleeping at near state boat launch sites where there were no lean-tos. And we never really had a problem with lean-tos filling up. I think the most people we had was 6.
Did you have any special technology that you used for communication throughout the route?
We did, actually. I had a Delorme GPS that could pair with a Spot satellite communicator. It was a gift that my dad gave me because he wanted to stay in touch with us on the trip. That device can send out Facebook messages, Twitter messages, and text messages. So we had it set up with our support team coordinator, Rob, and if we needed to, our parents, and our Facebook and Twitter page. So when we were on the trip, we were updating social media, and we were checking in every once in a while, and it also updated a map of our location. So people really did, and it was really cool to notice that it was happening. People really were following us along on our trip with our updates and on a map, which is really, really awesome when it was going on.
Yeah, and then we had a solar panel that we used to charge GPSs, Gabe's Spot, cell phones, cameras, all that kind of stuff. So we were really self-sufficient in that respect.
What was the purpose of the bike riding part of it? Did you guys put that in there because you wanted to have like a third mode of transportation, or how did that come about?
It wasn't so much that we wanted a third mode of transportation, so much as that we had these other sections of the route planned out on the map, and those were more like thoroughfares that we knew we could hike and paddle. And then we needed ways to link them up and to get from one of the larger routes to the other. The first biking section was really just to get us to the Northville Placid Trail, because there's really no trails to the south of the Northville Placid that go to the Blue Line, and we figured biking would be better than just walking on the road. And the second biking section was put in. We originally would have liked to start paddling the St. Regis River further south than we did, but there is a large section of property up there owned by the Rockefeller family, and we would not have been able to paddle the canoe through that section of the St. Regis, so we replaced that with a biking section just to get further up on the river where we could put the canoe in.
Yeah, we really wanted to paddle that section of the St. Regis that ran through their property, but we didn't feel like fighting a legal battle over it or anything like that.
So you were doing this in support of Big City Mountaineers. Tell me about Big City Mountaineers and how you got involved with them.
The first time we heard about Big City Mountaineers was through their program Summit for Someone, which is actually the program we're involved in right now. So Summit for Someone and Big City Mountaineers go hand in hand for us. Big City Mountaineers, if you want me to talk about the charity itself, I'll just give a rundown. They're a nonprofit based out of Colorado, and they work with kids around the country in a bunch of different big cities who are labeled at-risk youth, kids who have dropped out of school, maybe gotten in trouble, joining gangs, kids who really need help. And the charity has counselors who take them out, and leadership experts take them out on trips in the outdoors, canoeing, hiking, backpacking, all sorts of different trips. And they try and teach them critical life skills and life lessons, and they take them to the places where they've never been or maybe will never go before in their life. And it's a really interesting way to help change someone's life. The only way a true outdoorsman would think to change someone's life is to, get them out somewhere where they've never been before, doing something they've never done, and help change their life. So we heard about that charity through their Summer for Someone program, which is a program where you raise a certain amount of money to climb a mountain with other people who have raised that amount of money. You all donate to the charity, and then you climb the mountain as kind of a celebration. So we always recognized that program and thought it would be really cool to go and climb a mountain for this charity, raise money for them, kind of give back to the same thing that we grew up with, the outdoors, to kids who have never had that chance. So
that mountain that you chose, Mount Rainier?
Yes, it is.
And is that attempt still alive?
Very alive.
Yes, it is. We'll be leaving in just a couple of weeks, flying out there.
Fantastic. Now, I also read that, was there someone that joined you through part of this trip that was making a movie?
Yep. Our good friend Grant Sponable is a film student who filmed us pretty heavily in preparation for the trip and did various sections of the trip with us and met us on a couple meetup days and that kind of thing to get a lot of footage. And his plan is to put a short documentary together, kind of chronicling the whole thing, and we're going to get him a lot of video from Rainier and when we finish our 46ers, and he's hoping to put something together with all of that.
Excellent.
And that should be, he's going to be busy because he's going to be in school obviously coming up pretty soon, but he wants it to be done before Christmas, but no guarantees depending on how much time he has to edit and everything like that. We still have to do a big interview and everything like that, but when he is done with it, the plan is we're going to put it up on our YouTube channel, and it's going to be free and for everyone to see.
Very good. What's the biggest takeaway that you guys got from this expedition?
That's a complex question.
Yeah.
I think I learned a lot. I think I learned many, many different little things. First of all, I realized I love raising money for nonprofit organizations, and I love doing what I enjoy doing, which would be mountain climbing, for a purpose and not just for myself.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a lot of work, but it's been extremely rewarding everything we've been doing over the last almost a year at this point. And it's been really exciting to see the things we've done. As far as the trip itself, it was a long 20 days and a lot of time, walking in silence, and a lot of time spent just Gabe and I. And I think we learned a lot about ourselves and about each other. And we certainly learned quite a bit about backpacking and better ways to do things and different outdoor skills and that kind of stuff.
What's your advice for someone that wants to do this traverse?
A support team is huge. A group of people who you trust basically with your lives, who can take care of what you need them to take care of. And take your time on it is the biggest thing. We talked to a lot of people on the Northville Placid Trail about that same type of thing. We both said we don't totally understand the speed hiking game. It's a lot more rewarding and immensely more enjoyable when you can really take your time and not have to worry about mileage and enjoy it and look around and take a lot of pictures and really spend some time up there rather than just going up to physically exert yourself and get it over with. It is a long 3 weeks, but we found it to be extremely worth it.
Would you ever consider going unsupported or going solo?
I'm not sure. I don't think I would enjoy doing a through hike and canoeing alone. I really discovered for myself that on this trip I really am not that into through distance hiking. I love canoeing, but I'm not that into distance hiking. I'm really into mountains. I still love doing it, and the trip was awesome, but I think I would prefer, climbing a mountain any day over doing a week-long through hike.
Why is that?
And I think it's just because we talked a lot about the different mentalities of through hiking, whereas usually on a mountain climb, your goal is to get to a summit, which is like about halfway through the day for what we're used to doing, the 46. And then the other half of your day is coming down. Through hiking, your goal is to get to the next lean-to, which is a whole day long thing, and it kind of stretches your day out. And I don't know, it's a very different kind of hiking.
Yeah, it's a really different mentally, not at all as physically exerting. Maybe more physically exerting in the sense that your blisters are a lot worse at the end of it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more mentally straining, I think, and but I like that too, in the sense that I think when I'm climbing, I kind of turn my mind off and focus on the climb and on the goal that I have on getting towards the summit. And on long through hikes like this, you can really let your mind wander and explore not only your surroundings, but really anything you want. And I like both of them in that sense, and that they're different. 3 weeks, I said, would probably be the limit for me, though. I think that was a really good length for a trip, and I'm not sure how much more enjoyable it would be for me anyway to go very much longer than that. We've grown up climbing, and that's really been a focus of ours for a really long time. But this was a really great experience to see the other side of it and to experience different parts of the Adirondack Park and different parts of being outdoors in general.
Yeah, and back to the original question, I couldn't see myself doing it alone because I think, like Ryan said, the way that your mind wanders through hiking, I don't know, I don't think I'd enjoy not being able to talk to someone and share thoughts and share the beauty. I don't know, it's kind of I think I just always like to have someone there with me to share the experience.
Yeah, I agree.
Ryan and Gabe, what's next for you two?
Well, we're going to Rainier in a couple weeks. Obviously, that's really next. But we've thought for a while that more high-altitude types of stuff is the kind of thing we want to get into more and more. It's interesting, like I said, how much we've progressed from climbing smaller mountains in the Adirondacks to climbing the high peaks and to climbing all the highest mountains in the northeast United States at this point. We've gotten into rock and ice climbing more and more technical type of stuff, and we're really excited to get more into alpinism and mountaineering, and we're really, really excited. We think that's the direction we want to go with our outdoor experiences from this point on, but we're not really sure what that means or what comes after Rainier, but we tell everybody we meet there will definitely be more stuff coming from the two of us.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing for sure, and that's there will be another big project in the near future because our minds are always going. We're hiking, and we're at the same time thinking about what's next and what big trip we can do. And we're the kind of people that I think we think big, and we're pretty good at working really hard to achieve what we come up with.
Yeah, it's funny. We laugh. Our parents hate when we get together because we come up with crazy ideas like this, and everybody, including our parents, thinks they're ridiculous. No, this will never happen. But a couple months down the road, here we are doing it and walking 217 miles across the Adirondack Park and flying out to Rainier. And yeah, we tossed a couple crazy ideas around while we were out on the trip, because that's what we do. Our minds are always clicking like that and coming up with ideas. So there will definitely be something. It's just a matter of what at this point.
Well, I don't think it's crazy. I think it's awesome, and the fact that you guys are doing it for a good cause is even better.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we say crazy too much because that's what we hear from other people, but for us, this is pretty normal for us.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you guys?
Our website, AdirondackTraverse.org. You can email us through there. We have a Facebook page, Twitter account, all that kinds of stuff right through there. Our personal email addresses are on our website as well.
Okay, well, Ryan Wichelns and Gabe Messercola, thank you very much for talking to me today. I wish you well at Mount Rainier, and good luck on your future projects, and hopefully we might have a chance to talk again.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Recorded July 18, 2013. For more great podcasts, visit thepursuitzone.com.